super simple to get started. You can just use the Instagram app. I'm going to head over to the camera and go to posts. And I'm going to find my album titled Landscape. So this is just an album with a bunch of just cool shots that I have. Beautiful image. I believe this was in Montenegro. Unless you're doing a post which is just one slide, which is unlikely, but if you want to do that, that's fine. You're going to hit this button here, which is going to allow you to select multiple. So select a few shots. I like this one. I like this one as well, of a farm. This with some snowy mountains. And now when you go next, you'll be able to crop any one of these images. So say I don't like the positioning of this and I want it more zoomed in here, or I want a little bit less cars and a little bit more nature. I can do something like that. You don't want to zoom in too much because then, you're just super pixelated. But I would say 10, 20% zooming is more than fine, of course, depending on the quality of your image to begin with. Now from here, we can add text to all of our images. So first, we want to just make sure that the images are in the order that we want. Since I'm just using this for example, then we'll just roll with this. Now I'm a big fan of having kind of a title on the opening slide. If and when you're going to go into like some deep information with a lot of text, you want to start doing that on slide 2 or 3, 4, etc. So on the first one, we can do big text, which is like maybe it's something like 3 big lessons I've learned traveling to 23 countries. Boom. Now I am also big on making sure things are kind of squared up. So not a big fan of when things are divided up unevenly. So I'd much prefer to do something like this. 3 big lessons, and I could put the lessons capitalized as well. I've learned traveling to 23 countries. It's a little bit more evenly split. And then explore around with the different font options. Instagram gives you quite a few these days. Not a big fan of the black lettering, so I prefer white lettering with an outline, and then it's a little bit easier to kind of see what fits and what doesn't. Elegant is nice. Literature, I'm a big fan of as well, more so for the written stuff later on, not so much for the opening slides. For opening slide, I like classic, I like poster. Squeeze is very, very good. I think I'm going to go with squeeze, and then I'll distribute the text a little bit more like this. This is a beautiful shot, so I don't want to kind of take away too much from the nature. Maybe I'll put it down here. And another thing I can quickly do is show you a different technique, is I can actually remove that opening line, put this here, and then add a second text. This is just a bit more advanced styling. That's in blue, just like that. And then I can make this actually bigger, and I could even put it maybe something like that. 3 big lessons I've learned traveling to 23 countries. Let me make sure it's fully white. Yeah. So again, you can play around. I could also add a little arrow. Maybe I'll make this in orange, just to give you some options. Ooh. Sometimes Instagram is a little bit fidgety, as you can see. But hopefully you get what I'm saying with that. But I'm just going to delete this arrow for now. I'm going to hit done. Now I can go over here, and really it's just as simple as obviously indicating like 1. So you could do something like this where it's just a very big 1. I can zoom it in with this side scroll here as well. 1, and then it says like, you will be pushed outside your comfort zone. Then try something a little bit blue. Could even do something like this, where it's right justified. So you get the point, obviously, what I'm saying. Making this as big as possible, taking it, putting it up there. So that's just one example of what you could do. Just 1, 2, 3. You can also do, and I've done this on my page, and one of the examples that I gave, Holistic Hybrid, he's done this as well. So for this, you would want to choose a more legible font, something like literature, and you could just type unlimited paragraphs. I'll just tap this to give you an example paragraph. This is a completely random phrase. Just kind of fun that your phone can just make this. And then you can put it like that. To make this more legible, I'm a fan of putting either a solid black or a solid white background. Of course, you can also do things like blues, right? That's pretty easy to read. So you could put that there, and then I could have another one full of, randomness. And maybe I have that in white, and then I put this down below. And then if I were to have another slide, I could put like comment, paying to get my free traveling guide. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, this is just for the sake of example. And really you can notice that the quality of this stuff often comes down to the quality of your images. I think a lot of people think that, oh, I need to get Canva, I need to get Canva Pro, I need to spend an hour making a beautiful carousel. And could this be done better in Canva? Yes, but if we're talking about making a carousel that's like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 quality in 10 minutes versus making a Canva carousel that's maybe a 9 or 10 out of quality, but it takes you 45 minutes, an hour, I really think this is the better option for 99% of cases. And again, like I just said, the images really determine the quality, as well as just your ability to place text correctly. A very wrong way to do this would be like, what's the worst font I can find that's just super non-legible? Like, that's horrible, right? Even if you put this in white, I do this. It's like nobody's going to read that. It's impossible to read. Even here, it's very difficult to read. So a lot of it comes down to formatting, the quality of your images. And the last thing I'll say here, two last things actually, is adding in overlays and adding in music. So the first thing would be overlays. So I just made a tallow breakfast reel. So let me just get rid of some of this stuff and pretend as if, let's just pretend this was to get my traveling recipe guide, comment, eggs, right? And again, I would want to make this very legible. So I like literature. I like literature. I make this bigger. I could even make eggs. Here's another little tip. I can make eggs in a different color. Maybe I'll do eggs. I'll do red. Just make it pop. Whatever you want to do. Comment eggs. And then I can have this as a kind of overlay. This could be like my example of a traveling recipe guide that I do while I'm traveling. So that's very, very aesthetic. Again, it just comes down to what you have, and that's all using this overlay button. The last thing is music. So if you are doing still shots, highly recommend doing music. If you are doing videos, I would recommend you not do music, because the music is just not going to likely sync. If it's a spoken word video, it's not going to sync across the carousels. So I'm just a fan of leaving videos music free the entire time and just make it value packed. But for the case of making a photo based carousel, just pick a song. Perfect. And that's it. So if I look at my carousel here, 3 big lessons I've learned, 1, 2, 3, obviously just examples, so it's not fully coherent. And then here you can do polls. So polls are really good. I've found that even on relatively small accounts, you can get some engagement here, which if you are running a business is a great opportunity to get some engagement. So it'd be like, do you struggle with nutrition while traveling? And then instead of just leaving it as yes, no, like yes, it sucks. And then it's like a sad face. Say no, I'm locked in. Maybe it's a lock emoji, right? Gives people a little bit more reason to comment. And obviously you can tag people, add a location, all sorts of things. And yeah, that's basically it. Carousels are a huge part, I think, of most brands. Some are going to lean a little bit more towards Reels, and there are plenty of page examples that lean heavily into carousels. And the algorithm has been pushing it recently as of right now, December 2025. So give them a try. Maybe you like it. Maybe you resonate with it. Maybe you don't. But at the very least, you know how to do it, and you know how to put out things like this in really 10 minutes.